Hi, everyone. One thing we have learned during the pandemic is that humans are not meant to be isolated. We've also learned that leaders have to lead differently. Well, according to our guest today, Eric Ray, organizations also have to be different. They have the opportunity to be heart centered. Today, we're joined by Eric Ray, a leadership coach and a facilitator. He'll share what it means to be heart centered, what leadership looks like with emerging leaders, and what he is learning in regards to humans and what they're truly longing for. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds, a 30-minute conversation for and about leaders of mission based organizations. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth. Please take a minute if you are joining us to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining from. And I want to introduce my co-host, Rebecca Tuttle.
Good morning, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm Rebecca Tuttle. I'm the founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good. And this morning, Coffee Time is a two-person team because Peta Blakely, our co-host, is off saving the world from bad data collection. Actually, she's on vacation, taking some time to relax and rejuvenate, and we will be thinking of her today.
That means we can talk about her.
I don't know, she might comment in, so we have to be careful.
That's true. That's true. So today we're gonna have a great conversation. Eric Ray is founder of Potent Perspective Coaching and is a certified leadership coach. He also works with both emerging and experienced leaders. He also founded the Black Obsidian Men's Group, which is a healing experience for Black and Brown men. I can't wait to have this conversation because if you know me, you know my three favorite topics: leadership, organizations, and relationships. So let's welcome Eric Ray. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning. How are you?
Good, good.
Good morning, Eric. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's get started. Rebecca, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. So, Eric, let's begin with what does it mean to be a heart-centered organization?
That's a great question. So heart-centered organizations for me really involves a kind of culture. It's a culture that really looks at decision-making and policy-making within an organization. It focuses on, I think, centering the health and the wellness of staffers, of customers, of the community at large, and even the environment where we all live. I think these things are critical. There's kind of an environment of empathy and what I would call a sort of responsibility and accountability for an organization's actual impact in the world.
That's great. We talk a lot about accountability on our show. Now, you're pretty clear that this is the path nonprofits need to go towards. Why now?
Yeah, well, so I'll say that I don't think it's a new idea, right? I don't think it's something that's brand new, but I will say that COVID has really helped to kind of lay bare that our old way of doing business is just not working, or certainly not working for most of us, right? There's a way in which that it is working for a very, very small few, but I don't think that that's what we want anymore. I think what we want is to really have organizations that are supportive of the growth of everyone, and not just the kind of 1% out there.
The collective, I like that.
Yeah. I think it's, our incentives have changed, right? Like what COVID did was it made everybody have to focus on our health, which is incidentally not a bad thing, right? Like we should be paying attention to our health and our wellness and our well-being. And so all of a sudden, organizations found capacity that they didn't know or didn't think that they had. people who had been clamoring to work from home, for example, got their wish in like a snap of a finger, a flick of a pen, and you had people who, for example, are differently abled, who were now able to work from the comfort of their home instead of having to go into an office. So that's just a very small example of the way that COVID has had a real impact on organizations, I think.
That's amazing. This idea of slowing down and really prioritizing. It's also, we found that people are dysregulated. We didn't decide to work from home and had a protocol and the right policies in place. We were disrupted.
Yeah.
Right. And from one day to another, for many of us, our home became our office, it became our school.
Yeah.
It became the offices of other adults in the house. It became daycare. It became the after school program.
Mm-hmm.
So COVID also presented an opportunity for organizations to also focus on their staff in ways that they may not have had to do in the past, such as mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are people talking more about mental health openly, I hope, because we're all going through something.
Yeah, I think you're right, Cynthia. I think there has been a sort of to me, I think of it as kind of an awakening, a collective awakening where, so for example, we were talking about relationships, right? And so one of the things that these screens have done for us is, on one side of the coin, yes, we're separated. We don't have this kind of face-to-face contact anymore. But on the other side of the coin, we're sort of like transported right into people's homes.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many calls I've been on where I see people's dogs or people's children or people's cats or people's kitchen or something, like things that I would never, ever have access to. And all of a sudden that person becomes more of a human being.
Yeah.
Right. Even though we're separated by this screen, I actually have much more access to my colleagues in terms of the fullness of their life versus just the sort of manicured version of them that I get to see in the office.
Oh, I love that. The manicured version.
What's funny is I was talking to a colleague this week and she said, having all these Zoom calls and all these conference calls forces me to get up early, get myself dressed, and make my bed every day because you want to have a nice ambiance,
right.
you. And it's true. But they say when you get up and prepare for the day, you have a better day. What do you agree, Eric? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a sort of that's an interesting thing. I do agree. Actually, there's this I'm going to forget. There's a term for it, but I can't think of it right now. But it's this concept of like the first thing you do in the morning is make your bed. And the reason that works is because you accomplish something the moment you get out of bed. It is a way of creating organization and order in your life, and having that accomplishment, no matter how small, kind of primes you for the day. It gets you going. It's almost kind of like a meditation, in a sense. So yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. And if you talk to high achievers, many of them will tell you that make your bed every morning, first thing, and that's a thing.
That I had no idea that the reason why that move is so powerful is because you've already accomplished something minutes from getting up from your bed. I never saw it that way. Thank you. That is so cool. Rebecca's smiling.
I know, because I tell my kids that, do something productive today. Make your bed. Get up, start the day, be ready. Yeah, it works.
Yeah. It's a low bar thing that everyone can do, or that most folks can do. That really it sets you up. It's that little bit of accomplishment. It's that little bit of like, I've done something. And for me personally, I like to get into a made bed when I'm getting in at night. That's important to me. So I make it a point to make up my bed every morning when I get out of bed.
We're getting a lot of comments. Everyone loves this.
We're talking about off the internet.
Yeah. Make your bed in the morning. It matters.
Eric, you changed America.
I know Cynthia has some questions for you, Eric, so we can move on if you want to.
One thing
Sure.
that you're also doing is you are a leadership coach and you work with both emerging and experienced leaders. Here on the show, we talk a lot about how leaders have had to change in the midst of this crazy global pandemic. And I often find myself expressing empathy for people who are new to leadership during a pandemic because that's so unfair.
Mm.
And I mean, like, leadership isn't hard enough. Now we're gonna throw a pandemic, and you're not gonna
Right.
like meet your staff face to face.
Right.
And you're working with emerging leaders. What are you finding
Yeah.
to be the difference, or do you have hope? Do you share the same empathy?
Mhm.
Tell us what's going on.
Yeah. I actually, Cynthia, I'll be frank. I'm actually really excited for new leaders. It's so. Here's what I think. I think honestly, I think new leaders, or at least the new leaders that I'm working with, seem to be unencumbered by tradition. I'll say, right? There's a way in which new leaders are able to really have this amazing opportunity to kind of forge a new way of being in the midst of what is really an unprecedented time to be in business, to be alive in the world, really. We haven't experienced something like this since the 1920s or something, maybe even older. And so it's a chance really for new leaders to sort of think about a new way of being. They're having an opportunity to learn about their organization's ability to respond, their organization's ability to be nimble, or on the other hand, not so nimble, and what that actually means for them and their leadership style and how they want to carry or lead their business into the future. So I think this actually represents an unbelievable opportunity that I don't know that you can get this kind of lesson in any business school.
Yeah, that's the truth. And every book written on crisis management does not include a global pandemic that meant 5 other crises to follow, and the fact that everybody on every level of an organization has been impacted by this.
Yeah.
No, there's not a book yet about that.
Yet.
Well, we'll
Soon.
have to write one.
Yeah, Coffee Time is looking to write a book, so maybe that's our topic. But I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. I'm gonna turn it to Rebecca because I see some comments, and we want to engage our viewers.
Excellent. Hayat, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She says, very true. Leaders are the ones who find something good in this tough time and even find a new business channels and new opportunities. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to respond to that, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I do, I'm also an entrepreneur. I run my coaching practice, but I also have a soup company. And we've had to think very differently about how we do business. And the guest there is 100% right. There has been this call for creativity to kind of think differently about how things are going to unfold and what things are going to work and what things won't. So it really does represent a great opportunity. And honestly, this is the thing that real leadership is made of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this sort of adaptive leadership. We're going to take what's given and we're gonna use it and we're gonna make the best out of it. And that is that's like leadership 101, and it's critical.
Yeah, and so hard to do. It's hard to do because this pandemic has impacted us in ways we could never have imagined, and everything that followed thereafter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So
yeah. Well, it's the thing that separates, I think, leaders from managers, right? You have some people who are in charge, but they're a manager, right? And then you have some people who are in charge and they're leaders, right? And for me, the difference is about vision. It's about creativity. It's about adaptivity. and being able to, sort of, I don't want to say read the TVs, but kind of have an intuitive sense about what's going on, and how to get there. And intuition, by the way, is a muscle. You can build intuition. It's not some magical thing some people have and some people don't. We all have intuition. We're just not all good at using it, because that's not the kind of knowing that we preference. We prefer to have logic. That's what we advantage in this society, right? But we also all have intuition, and just like any muscle, it can get stronger the more you pay attention to it and the more you use it.
I love that. I'm studying that, actually. Working memory and other executive functions. Absolutely right. Our brain is a muscle, so the more we use it to practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the brain is incredibly malleable and can change shape and form literally as we create new habits and engage in new activities. And so fear not, if you're not somebody who listens to your own inner knowing, you can do it. You can learn how to do it for sure.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was muscle. I thought we are who we are, and I'm one of these people who wants logic and that uses logic. And as a researcher, I'm trained that you have to investigate your facts with 3 citations. So when somebody tells me something, I go to look and find 3 places that are saying the same thing.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but now, okay, so now I have to exercise my intuition too, huh?
Well, there's a space for everybody. There's a space for everybody, Cynthia, and we need folks who are gonna have logic and have the 3 citations, but we also need people who are going to be able to kind of look inside and kind of have a sense for how do we what would be the right sort of nuanced way to traverse this road. So there's a space for everybody.
Do you find a difference in coaching male leaders versus female leaders, or men versus women leaders? Is there a difference in their style? I'm curious, because a big part of coaching, especially in my work when I'm coaching my clients, just is confidence. And we hear and we see in the research that women tend to be less confident as leaders than men, although I would disagree with that research.
So I can only speak from my experience, right? And I've seen that research too, and I understand why that research exists. And I actually don't necessarily disagree with the research, but my personal experience has been a little different. And I guess I should say that as a coach, I'm taking everybody as an individual, right? So even now as I'm talking to you, it's difficult for me to sort of think across the various people I've coached and say like, okay, well, were the men more confident? Were the women more confident? That answer is hard to say. I think there is a difference in the way that I've experienced men approaching work and women approaching work. And I think those differences kind of fall along a sort of willingness to kind of bring people in, or versus a willingness to just be more directive, say the thing, and then kind of figure it out from there. That, I guess, sort of breaks down along gender lines, but I think that's actually got much more to do with socialization, the way that men and women are socialized differently versus a sort of internal, innate difference of style, right? I think I've seen some hard driving, hardcore women who, just they say the thing, they go, they drive through, and then I've seen men who are much more,
relationship based
and building. I'm one of those guys. That's kind of like my work. I sort of build relationships. That's part of the coaching experience. So it's difficult to draw a line across, but I will say there is a powerful impact on the socialization of people, and that shows up for sure in their work style.
That's interesting. That is.
That is.
I think Myra has a comment.
Yes, and it's a little long, so I'm just going to read it off the screen because it will cover all of us.
Mhm.
Myra says, as a leader that leads 2 teams of counselors and clinicians, I try and create new ways of training to incorporate at least one fun thing in our meetings. What are other activities I can give them to do on their own when I am not available to them? And then she further says, knowing my teams on a deeper level allows her to recognize if she's going to say something that will trigger them. What do you suggest she can do when a member does not want to share as much?
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Can I answer the first one, Eric?
Yeah, please.
I want to share something I used to do when I used to have a team. And some people loved it, some people hated it, but we all laughed. We used to have 1 minute dance parties.
Yes.
And we could do them at any time. Like
Yes.
literally, we could be in the middle of a team meeting and somebody said, all right, let's get up and do a 1 minute dance party. And we would just get going. And if that person was really clever, they were on their phone and they're ready to play some music. And then it was really fun. But it was
You never told us this, Cynthia. Why haven't we done this on coffee time?
I know we should. It was always a minute. Everyone had to do it, and it was meant to be fun. And so, you always have people who roll their eyes, but we always laughed at the end. We always laughed. So Myra, Myra said, yes, I do that.
I know, that's awesome, Myra. I love this.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, and then her second comment or question, I don't.
I'll bring it up here.
Okay.
So she's asking you, Eric, what do you suggest she can do when a member does not want to share as much?
Yeah. I think ultimately you have to respect where people are, right, in the moment. So I don't think you want to put people on the spot or make, force people to share something if that's not what they're into. And then as a manager, I think for me, I would start asking questions about, am I creating a space that really truly feels safe for everyone? And what may be happening, like when I'm not in the room, or is there a kind of connection? Like you may have an employee who feels really comfortable with you, but maybe doesn't feel so comfortable with some of their other colleagues, and so that creates an environment where people don't have a kind of psychological safety to share. So that may be something to consider or to think about as you encounter people who are less forthcoming with what's going on.
Yeah, I like that. You can also have a one-on-one and really get to understand the other person's perspective. And you're right, Eric, this person could just simply have really strong boundaries around work and coworkers. And it could be that simple, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or which is okay.
Yeah, which is fine. And so
boundaries are important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I wanted to make sure to mention, because you're learning a lot doing this work, and I almost called you a relationship builder. So I totally see you as a relationship builder.
I'll take that, sure.
Yeah. You founded the Black Obsidian Men's Group.
Yes.
And you were telling me the other day about what you're learning, especially what human beings are longing for. Tell us again. Tell us now. Tell the world.
Yeah. I think particularly in times of COVID and this sort of in the era of social distancing and screens and this kind of thing, I think people are really longing for connection. People are longing for relationship and a sense of belonging. I think that's always been a fundamental need for human beings, a real sense of belonging and connection with one another. We're social beings. We don't do it by ourselves. Anyone who tells you that they did it by themselves is lying to you. We need each other. We belong to each other. That's the truth. And what I've discovered with Black Obsidian is the degree to which this kind of connection, particularly between men, is not. There aren't very many spaces built specifically for that kind of connection. The space that I created is an affinity space, so it's specifically for people who identify as Black and people who identify as men. We try to be open in that regard. So, sexual orientation doesn't matter. We're welcoming for trans men. You just have to identify as Black and identify as a man. And so what I've found is, given this space, given this, safe space for men to come together, the conversations that we've had have been just incredible. I in my wildest dreams, I couldn't have imagined the sorts of things we talk about and the way that the men have really grown to care for each other, in very open and honest ways. And
Wow.
it took very, very little prompting on my part. They were ready for it. They wanted it, and really have taken the space as their own. So it really is incredible to see men really living into their full range of emotion. We're typically relegated to like one or two. We get anger, we get humorous, kind of funny, maybe a little bit of playful, but that's like really it. There's not much room for sadness for men. There's not much room. There's almost no room for vulnerability for men. We can't cry in public, otherwise we're not man enough. All kinds of stuff. And this is a space where we can put that baggage down and really inhabit a fuller sense of ourselves, which I have to say has been incredible to be a part of.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we see it with leaders also, right? This isolation. It's what you just said. The isolation goes against our genetic makeup. And
Mhm.
leaders today are talking about feeling more and more isolated every day. Not
Yeah.
only is it lonely at the top, but there's also this shame that comes
Mhm.
with not knowing what to do,
Yes.
right? And
Oh my goodness. I just had this conversation with somebody about 3 days ago. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but yes.
no, but to have like, so I'll let you expand on that, but to be so vulnerable, right? It is the reason why we started this show. We don't have the answers either, but we felt that if we came together and shared the little bit we do know, or the little bit that we're trying together, we can get through this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, Cynthia, there's a delicate balance, right? This is what it is, because, and I see it in myself. I want my leader to instill a sense of confidence in me that minimally they know what they're doing.
Right.
That's what I want that. And I see it in myself. There is no room for figuring things out or like, let's try this or try that. Like, I want you to know as a leader. But the reality is that like who knows? We're all just figuring this out, similar to what you just said. And so there's this balance, I think, that is really potent and really powerful for leaders as they are sort of working through a decision, to be able to pull back the curtain just a little bit to say, like, I'm a human, I'm trying to figure things out. But not so far back that they get to see all the sausage being made, right? Like I don't want to see all of the dirty, crazy ideas, being tossed on the wall to see what sticks. But I do appreciate a leader who can let me know that they're also struggling through this in the same way that I am. But coming to it with a real open heart and a real sense that that they're going to get through it, and that kind of thing definitely instills a kind of confidence in me. But it's very delicate. I think you need to know your staff. You need to know the sort of tolerance for uncertainty in the kind of environment that you're creating, because it can absolutely lead to some real challenges when people lose faith in your ability to lead them.
Yeah, I can see that. What a great conversation. We are at our 30-minute mark, but I want to check with Rebecca. Comments, questions?
We're getting a lot of comments. We can't touch on all of them today because we're running close to the end of time. But Eric, if our viewers wanted to reach you, is the email on the screen here the best way they could get in touch? Should we share your web address? What is the best way for them to connect?
Yeah. Either way, the email gets right to me. It comes right to my inbox. Otherwise, I can be reached at www.potentperspective.com. And for anyone interested in the men's group, it's Black Obsidian, www.blackobsidianhealing.com.
Awesome. Yep, we will put that in the comments. In the meantime, we are going to wrap up really quickly, Eric. We started this conversation with organizations can be heart-centered. We ended it with this beautiful description of leadership and relationships and healing. What can an organization do right now to begin its pathway into becoming heart-centered or becoming more heart-centered?
Yeah, that's good. There's two quick things I'll say. One is I actually think coaching is critical. I think every person should have a coach, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a coach.
I agree.
But as a coach, I have my own coach. I believe in it. I think it works. And so I think leaders, if you don't have a coach, get one. Do it now. Do it today. The second thing I think is very simple, very elemental. Listen. Listen. Talk to your staff. Bring them together. See what they need. See what they really need. You've got to have a level of trust because they may not tell you right up front what it is. But listen to your staff. There's tons of wisdom floating out there. Listen to them. Yeah.
Rebecca, just to make sure people get the right address, it's Black Obsidian Healing.
Oh, healing. I thought he said feeling. My apologies.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, healing. BlackObsidianHealing.com.
I do believe you could.
I can add to the comments when we close the show. I'll fix it.
And you can delete the comments now. Okay, so we are way over time and we could be talking about this forever. But this shows you that there's still a lot to talk about in terms of structural care and self-care. And we will continue the conversation on Coffee Time with Masterminds. We thank you for coming on the show, for listening, for all your comments. Every time we talk about care, we get lots of interaction. We're on to something. Eric, people need to care for themselves and to care for each other. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Rebecca. And we'll see you next week on Coffee Time with Masterminds. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care.